Once upon a time, there was a man who lived without a heart. How was that possible? From early childhood, he knew that he did not have a normal heart inside him. Instead, there was a strange mechanism ticking like a clock in his chest. This man felt no pain, no fear, no love, no emotions at all. His life was entirely mechanical. Every morning, he would wake up, get dressed, and go to work. His job was simple: repairing old clocks. Mechanisms were close and understandable to him like no one else. He knew every gear, every spring, every nut. The clocks always worked perfectly after his repairs. One day, an old clock that no one could fix was brought to his workshop. It was adorned with strange symbols and looked like it didn't belong to this world. Our hero immediately felt something unusual about this clock. It seemed to whisper to him in an unknown language. He began to disassemble it, studying each element. The clock turned out to be much more complicated than he thought. Inside was a miniature world where everything operated according to its own laws. Soon he realized that this clock was not just a mechanism, but a portal to another dimension. Each time he inserted a new element or wound a spring, the world around him changed. Once, he found himself in a world where everything was upside down. Houses stood on their roofs, people walked upside down, and time flowed backward. Another time, he ended up in a world made entirely of glass, fragile and brittle. The people there were transparent, and he could see their thoughts and feelings. He understood that this clock opened doors to parallel worlds. But in each one, he was searching for something. He didn't know what it was, but he felt it was connected to his missing heart. In one of the worlds, he met a girl. She was as strange as he was. Instead of a heart, she had a glowing crystal. She told him she knew where to find his heart, but to do so, he would have to journey through many worlds. And so their adventure began. They traveled through worlds, meeting incredible creatures and solving puzzles left by ancient civilizations. Each new dimension brought new challenges and discoveries. Finally, they reached the last world. It was dark and ominous, and in its center stood a huge mechanism similar to the one inside our hero. There, in the center, beat his heart, a real, living heart. As he approached the mechanism, his heart began to beat faster. He knew he had to replace the mechanism with his heart, but once he did, his life would change forever. He would no longer be a machine. He would become a human. Summoning all his willpower, he stepped forward and began the replacement. When the heart took its place, he felt emotions returning to him. First, it was fear, then joy, then pain, and finally, love. The world around him began to disappear, and he returned to his workshop. Now he was different. He knew what it meant to live and feel, but most importantly, he knew what it meant to love. And with this knowledge, he began a new life, no longer as a soulless mechanism, but as a true human. In a small town where everyone knew each other, there lived a man without a heart. He was known for his coldness and lack of emotions. His eyes were always empty, and his smile was rare and strained. But no one knew that his condition was not just a character trait, but a real anomaly. One day, while strolling through the market, he came across an old mirror in an antique shop. It caught his attention with its strange aura. In the mirror, he saw not his reflection, but the image of a man with a heart. This man looked like him, but with eyes full of life and a smile that radiated genuine happiness. He bought the mirror and brought it home. From that day on, his life began to change. Every night, he saw new scenes in the mirror from the life of the man with the heart. This man experienced joys and sorrows, loved and suffered, laughed and cried. Our hero began to feel these emotions as if they were his own. He tried to understand what this mirror was and why it showed him such a life. The more he looked into the mirror, the stronger the connection between him and his reflection became. He began to dream of becoming like the man in the mirror. One night, when the moon was full, the mirror spoke to him. The voice was deep and mystical. It said that our hero could gain a heart if he passed the trials of the soul. These trials would not be easy, but if he succeeded, he would become a complete person. The first trial was to acknowledge his mistakes and sins. He had to meet each person he had hurt and sincerely ask for forgiveness. It was difficult, but he began to feel his soul lighten with each forgiveness. The second trial was related to love. He had to find someone who would love him as he was, despite his coldness and lack of emotions. This was even harder, but one day he met a girl who saw not only a cold person, but also hidden depth. She loved him as he was, and it changed him. The third and final trial was the hardest. He had to face his fears and accept them. In the mirror, he saw all his fears and insecurities, all the things he hid even from himself. He realized he had to accept his weakness to become stronger. When he passed all the trials, the mirror began to glow brightly. It shattered, and a real heart fell out of it. He picked it up and felt it start to beat in his chest. It was an incredible feeling, to live and feel for real. Now his life changed. He was no longer a cold and soulless person. He was alive, full of emotions and feelings. And most importantly, he found someone who would be with him no matter what. They began a new life together, and each day was filled with joy and happiness. In an old mansion on the edge of the city, there lived a man without a heart. He was the heir to an ancient lineage, and his life was surrounded by mysteries and enigmas. From early childhood, he knew he had no heart. Instead, there was a strange crystal inside him that glowed dimly. His family told him that this crystal was part of their ancient heritage, and he must guard it at all costs. But our hero always felt something was missing. He was devoid of all emotions and lived like a machine, performing only necessary actions. One day, while rummaging through old books, he came across a record about the portal of emotions. This record said that there was a place in the world where one could gain a real heart. But to find this portal, one had to pass through many trials and solve many riddles. Inspired by this discovery, he set out on a journey. His path led through dense forests, high mountains, and deep caves. In each new place, he met strange creatures and solved complex puzzles. In the forest, he met a wise owl who told him that the first key to the portal was hidden in his mind. He had to remember all the moments in his life when he felt even a faint hint of emotion. It was not easy, but he found those moments and realized that even without a heart, he was capable of feeling. On the mountaintop, he met an old sage who told him that the second key to the portal was hidden in his soul. He had to realize his desires and dreams, his fears and hopes. This was even harder, but he found the strength to accept his true self. In the depths of a cave, he met a spirit who told him that the third key to the portal was hidden in his actions. He had to prove his readiness to sacrifice for others. This was the hardest trial, but he found the strength to help a stranger, even at the risk of his own life. When he gathered all three keys, the portal of emotions opened before him. He stepped into it and found himself in a strange world where everything was made of light and shadow. In the center of this world beat a huge heart, radiating powerful energy. He approached the heart and felt it begin to draw him towards it. At that moment, he realized he had to become part of this heart to gain real emotions. He took a step forward and felt the heart begin to beat in his chest. The world around him disappeared, and he returned to his mansion. Now, he was different. He felt every beat of his heart, every emotion, every feeling. He realized that true strength lay not in mechanisms and crystals, but in a living, beating heart. His life changed. He began to feel joy and sorrow, love and fear, happiness and pain. And most importantly, found the meaning of his life. He was no longer an heir to an ancient lineage living without emotions. He became a person capable of loving and being loved.